Coming up on today's episode of PSN, paracanoeist and Canada's closing ceremony flag bearer from the Paris 24 Paralympics, Brianna Hennessy, stopped by to reflect on her year in sports. You won't want to miss it. Here's PSN.
Welcome to Parasport Nation with Alex Smyth and Nathan Clement.
Hello and welcome in. I'm Alex Smyth, and as always, I am joined by Nathan Clement. Nathan, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Alex. I'm really excited for today. Brianna, and getting to know her over the last couple of years, is such an incredible story and such an incredible person, and I can't wait to share that with everyone.
Yeah, you know, it's one of those things that I had a chance to chat with her like over a year ago, and she's always so full of energy and like she just can't. She gets you smiling so quickly, so easily. I'm excited to chat with her. So, you know, she is just fresh off another golden performance. She won gold in the women's VL2 200 meter and women's KL1 200 meter at the Paracanoe Pan American Championships in Montevideo, Uruguay. She is here now. Let's welcome her in. Brianna, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today.
Thanks for having me.
So last time we spoke was over a year ago at the Level Playing Field premiere for the season. A lot of excitement and accolades have started to roll in for you this past year or so. How are you feeling, especially when you reflect on the last year or so of your athletic career?
Oh my gosh, such a loaded question. I mean, I think for all the athletes coming back from Paris, right? I think it was a pretty different experience for those who were in Tokyo as well, right? So, you know, that was the biggest thing that stood out for me. I'm very much about my support team and the people that are behind me, and being able to have my family there this time meant the world of a difference, right? So I feel like we were kind of, you know, a big crew going there together to try and do something impactful for our country. So, I don't know. I'm very much about symbolism and what things mean to me and stuff like that. So just having that this time, I think, and looking forward to that was one of the biggest things for me of making my family proud, I think, and having that chance to do so. And of course, you know, having so many Canadian fans this time around, right? So just the viewership was incredible this time around. And, you know, you guys know me about, you know, how much I advocate for people with disabilities, and just seeing that grow and how much farther we've come, even though, of course, we have much more work to do, but these bigger things, right, that are more impactful in the long run, and all of us coming together for these kind of things, I think that's kind of what hit home for me. So, yeah.
Yeah, having world championship medals and now having Paralympic medal a part of your career, what was that experience like, getting to go on that podium in Paris?
Well, I might get emotional with this one. As you know, most of you know, I lost my mom last year, so it's been a really tough time on my family, and just finding new reasons to go on, I guess. You know, I've already overcome the part of, you know, deciding I was worth it after my injury, but this was something completely new for me. And my mom is my best friend. She's my Wonder Woman. And I actually, you know, got a big Wonder Woman tattoo done before I went down the race course, and with her golden armor on, with her wings. And I had a cardinal necklace around my neck with her ashes in it. And as soon as I crossed that finish line, I kissed it. It was the first thing I did. So I think that's why there's a couple of us that got super emotional on the podium. I know Nick did as well. Him and I are big sucks. But for me in that moment, that was, you know, knowing just that my mom was with me super close, and that how proud she'd be of me. So I feel like that was the closest that I could ever come to her again, because she had left me a note before she passed away saying that she would be with me in Paris and that she would meet me there. So I think for me, that was just the first time since she passed away that my heart was filled to the top with love. So yeah.
Well, and it's such a beautiful, touching moment, and watching you on the podium there is something that I'm certainly going to remember for a while. Another moment from Paris is, you know, you being one of the closing ceremony flag bearers. What was that experience like, going into the stadium and waving that Canadian flag?
Oh my gosh. You're going to get me to cry again. So I had achieved the silver medal on a Saturday, and I did all the media afterwards and got back to the hotel, and I still had para kayak to go the next day. and we were packing up our luggage. We had to get out of the hotel room on Sunday. And I got the special call asking, if I would do the honor. And I had another full-on, adrenaline rush and meltdown again, just because I was so, taken back with how many other incredible athletes there were there. I did not expect it at all. I didn't even know how to react. I was actually lost for words, which, if you know me, that doesn't happen very often. But when people ask me about what it meant for me, it brings it right back again to my mom. And my mom was someone that, stood up for people. And I was raised, to stand up for what's right and to advocate for what's right and to have a voice when you have that platform for people that don't. And it made me think in that moment that the saying that she used to tell me that, you see sometimes it's much more honorable to wield a sword than it is to wear a shiny crown on your head. That for me has resonated since. And in those moments, that's what it meant for me. It was that some people out there saw that I was so passionate about advocating for everyone there, and everyone back home in our country with disabilities. And it always reminds me of when I was in Tokyo at the closing ceremonies that resonated with me as well. As they said, people with disabilities shouldn't have to do something extraordinary to be respected and accepted in their communities. And I've been fighting for that ever since. We have International Disability Day coming up, and I got a couple of things I'm working on for that as well, that meant so much to me. So I think in those moments, it meant even more than the medal for my country. It meant so much more that, I could have a voice. So, yeah.
Thank you for these amazing answers. You said you have some things coming up on the go, and one of those things is the Women's Cup for wheelchair rugby. You're heading back to Paris. What does that mean to have a competition going into its fourth year, I believe, like a tournament like that? What does that mean to you?
I mean, women in sport is obviously my other passion as well. I played for in Team Canada with able-bodied rugby before my accident. So it's my favorite sport. That's what I'm wired for in my heart. Every fiber in me is contact sports. And so, this year we don't have a Team Canada going in, but I'm going to be competing on an at-large team with an athlete from Japan and South Korea and Switzerland, Finland. But this is all towards the movement for women in this sport. And I think we're almost there. We're getting there. I think we have 6 country teams out of the 8 teams that are there this time. So that's the biggest turnout. Last time we had 2. We had Canada and Great Britain. So I think we are coming close to some pretty exciting things coming up. We would love to see the women's side of wheelchair rugby in LA coming up. But if we can't get there, then maybe the next one in Australia. But I think that we are on course for this. So I want to be a big part of that and do anything I can to support it. So I'm super excited.
Do you think that because wheelchair rugby is an open sport at the Paralympics, men and women can play on the same team, do you think that helps grow the involvement of female players? Or is that a bit of a hindrance in the growth of the women's side of the sport?
Right. So, I mean, I love my rugby boys, and they've done so much for me, and they give me so much support. It's a brotherhood for sure. Just like it was, I feel like I can relate when I had my boxing brotherhood when I was a competitive boxer before my accident. But there's also lots of missed opportunities as well for women when they can't shine and they are so passionate about the sport as well. We see maybe 1 or 2 females on a national team, and then they may not even make it to go to the actual games to even represent a woman in that sport. There's no women's leagues, there's no women's teams. We sometimes put a women's team together to play in a men's tournament per se. So I think this is going to be, an excellent way to, be able to encourage and empower other women to want to come out to this sport as well. Because I know what it did for me. It was my first sport that I played. I saw it in the auto rehab center. I went down and I saw the rugby guys and the legends like Pico, he's my coach. Playing down there. And I said, oh my God, it's adult bumper cars. I can actually do this. This is a sport. And I fell in love with it right away. And I know so many other women would be, able to fall in love as well if they were just given that chance. So I think this is super important for me to be there. Yeah.
You're an athlete that's reached the top spot in one of the top spots in canoeing, but now you're going into another sport too with wheelchair rugby there. How important is it for athletes to have a sport that they're maybe excelling into, but also really growing that grassroots development in somewhere like wheelchair rugby?
Right. I mean, I grew up with, both my parents played national level football for over a decade. So I grew up in a jolly jumper on the side of a football field. That's kind of been my whole life. But we're big believers in cross training and having a cross training sport. And I think it's a wonderful time for all the para athletes to go out and try something new as well, and maybe find a new love in their life, and that would even, accentuate their sport that they're already doing now. I'm planning on trying downhill skiing this winter time. So I grew up skiing, so I want to see if anything sort of translates over or transitions over from that. I did try sledge hockey. I grew up playing AA ice hockey, and that didn't for me for sure, because I just don't have the core stability. But I think that's the cool thing, is just going out and trying new things, and maybe you can find some new passions, and just, increase your community of para athletes, and that you're reintegrating yourself back into, right? So I always talk about, with para athletes, it's the biggest part of our ongoing rehab, right, and recovery, and that never stops. So you gotta keep going. You gotta keep looking for opportunities.
Well, and I find it very interesting. So for myself, I have vision loss, I got hearing loss. So I find trying to get into a para sport that's accessible and also like fits within your interest, but also your ability can be a real challenge, because certain ones, they come in contrast with one another. Can you talk a bit about that kind of a journey for you, finding a sport that not only you're interested in, but you enjoy doing? Because it sounds like you're willing to try a lot of them. It's just whether or not they're the right fit for you.
Yes, and I think that's a big part of when you're learning your new body, right? So some people, of course, are born with their disabilities. And in my case, I had my accident after the fact. So I think there's a big process, and it takes years. And I think that, I'm still learning my body now. So I think just having that courage to put yourself out there and try new things, and trying just a plethora of different para sports, because you don't know how your body's going to react to them, or you don't know what each sport demands of your body. And I think that the special part about, when we talk about the Paralympics, is we're there to celebrate our abilities, right? We've had all our coaches behind us that have found some way, right, to bring those alive and to make that part of us shine. And I think that that's sort of the part of parasport that's super cool, is that if you do a sport, maybe it's not for you, but if you try another one, you might realize, oh my gosh, I'm really good at this, and this builds my self-confidence back, and this is what I'm going to, take on. And it doesn't have to be competitive. It could be recreationally too, because again, there's that huge therapeutic side to it. In paddling, if you're just out on the water, right? I mean, right in the fall when all the leaves are changing and you're in, the Gatineau Hills are around you, it's gorgeous, right? It's takes all your stress away, and it, helps alleviate some of your pain, distracts you. So there's all sorts of other benefits too. Yeah.
Yeah, with sport, especially I've learned with cycling, it can be one of the greatest releases, just getting out into nature. And Gatineau and that area of Ottawa is so beautiful, especially out in nature. And I've been lucky to travel, and I know you've been lucky to travel too, and you just were recently in Uruguay for a competition. Do you have a favorite food city that you've been to in your sporting experiences?
Oh my goodness, that's a good question. Well, I do have a soft spot for France, because I grew up doing a teacher exchange. So one of the years when I was a teenager, my dad is an English teacher. So we went and lived in Holland for a year, and their family came and lived here. And we were 2 hours away from France at the time. And they told us that they could speak a lot of English in Holland, but they couldn't. So as we were learning the language, we used to go over to France all the time because we could speak French, and we felt a lot more comfortable. So I've actually spent a fair amount of time in France, and I just love that city. I love the culture, and I love the food. I love the food there too. I probably ate way too much, baguettes and croissants when I was there, but I don't seem to get sick of them. So.
Well, and again, the food from the Paris Games seems to be a continuing talking point, as well as the quality was phenomenal. For yourself, I mean, it hasn't really slowed down for you since the games. You are coming off a double gold at the Paracanoe Pan American Championships. When you do get time in between all these different competitions, all these different sports, how do you like to kind of unwind, relax, and just catch your breath and recharge?
So I have an artistic side. So I love to do acrylic painting. So I'm hoping I can get a little bit of time to do that. I'm also a crazy animal lover with cats and dogs. So, my emotional therapy animal is being able to be at home and spend some time with them as well. But this year is going to be a very special year for me, because Christmas was my mom's favorite holiday, and I was grieving too much last year to celebrate it. And my family is very much about just playing games together and having some wonderful big meals, and doing some baking and sharing some laughs. So I think that my brother and I are going to build up the courage this year to put up a tree again and, celebrate with mom and bring that love back for this holiday, because I know that's what she would want. So I think when I come back from World Cup in December, I think those couple of weeks, I'm really going to try and enjoy the holidays this year. And yeah.
Yeah, and with those events coming up, is there like one thing you want to like tell like other athletes, because you've been able to compete in canoe, kayak, in rugby? Is there anything that you want to tell like up and coming athletes to follow their dreams, follow their passions? Is there anything that you want to share with them who are starting out in that grassroots, as you're a great advocate for sport?
I mean, I think it's the same things that I use, or the tools that I use from growing up as an elite athlete. When I had my accident, I pulled from those same tools that I learned in sport. And that's probably why I'm so passionate about it, because it saved me and it's given me my purpose and my identity back in my life. But, the tenacity and resilience, or the self-confidence, the self-discipline, the perseverance, all these wonderful, the teamwork skills, right? All these wonderful attributes that you can learn, no matter who you are, whatever shape, form, background, you know what I mean? Or disabilities or not. That's why I believe so much in the power of sport. I always believe in sort of, if you believe in yourself, you become unstoppable. So I feel like, if you just build up that strength to give it a shot and put yourself out there, you'd be very surprised with how welcoming and loving and supportive the disabled community is. And we're all there to support each other, and there's no judgment, and we're all about unity and kindness. And it's something that I treasure very much, that I've learned since, after my accident. So I feel like it's a very safe space if you just give it the chance.
Brianna, this has been phenomenal. Thank you so much for taking time to chat with us. And we'll be sure to catch up with you down the road and check in on how you're doing with all the other different sports you're trying out.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys. Anytime.
What a great interview. I always love catching up with Brianna Hennessy. Nathan, I'm still blown away by the fact that she literally won a silver medal in Paris. She's won 2 gold medals at the Paracanoe Pan American Championships last week or the week before. And she's still talking about trying out different para sports, trying to find the best fit for her. Like, that is something that boggles my mind. Achieving that high success, but still looking to see what else is out there, what else might be of interest.
Yeah, she is a true athlete. Someone who's always trying to find what's best for her and trying to compete, like she's mentioning, and she's going to be in Paris for the Women's Rugby Cup, and then she's also looking at para-alpine and other sports. But it just goes to show that she's someone that has that heart, has that determination to follow what she loves and follow her passions, follow her desires, but especially like listening to her talking about the advocacy work, talking about the community work that is required, and really trying to make inroads so other athletes can experience these different sports like she has. It's very, very special. And yeah, it was just incredible getting to listen to her speak, tell her story, and just share all her insights.
And for you're someone who represented Canada in the Paralympics in swimming, and then made that change to cycling, and obviously came away from Paris with some hardware as well. Like, what is that process like, knowing that, okay, you've achieved like the grand an entrance to the grand stage of your sport globally, but knowing, okay, maybe this still isn't the right fit for me. What is that thought process like? Like, what is the journey that you have to go on when you start wondering if the sport you're in is the right one for you?
Wow, that's a very, very deep question, because for everyone it's so unique and it's so different. Like, we all go through evolutions as a person, whether it's in our career or in our sporting background. And sometimes you just have to listen to your heart. You have to listen to your brain. And sometimes what's right or what kind of transitions you want to go into. And like for myself, I stepped away from sport. I needed that little bit of a feel out process to step back in and find something I love. And I'm so lucky and I'm so thankful I found cycling. Cycling is like, for me, is my love, is my passion, is my life at this point. And I know for athletes like Brianna to still be looking, trying to seek and discover, it's a very important journey of self-discovery too. always pushing, always navigating new worlds and new opportunities and new senses of community can be something so beautiful and so impactful in the years in your lifetime. When you look back at what you've done, you don't want to have those regrets. And sometimes it's best just to throw yourself up there, because you never know what you can find. You never know what opportunities, what people you can meet, what chances you can go. Like she was mentioning off air that she's going to be doing the Team Canada celebration in Ottawa for a couple of days, and then she's taking a direct flight over to Paris for the Women's Rugby Cup. And that is nonstop travel. And I know for her and for a lot of athletes with disabilities, travel can be such an impact, but she's still putting herself up there. She's trying, she's throwing herself into these situations, and it can be really, really beautiful in an athlete's journey just to try whatever you can.
Absolutely. Another thing too, that I want to ask you about is the fact she mentioned like discovering different sports too, especially when it's once in the off season. It's that cross training kind of mentality, going from a summer sport to a winter sport, just to make sure that you're always active. Like, do you try that at all, or is it just based on where you are, being in Vancouver, you're able to cycle all year round? Have you considered trying a different sport to cross train?
I have, yeah, and I've looked at other sports as cross training. Like cross training's one of the greatest gifts that you can have, is trying different activities, trying different sports, because it allows you that freedom to learn, to grow, and also have fun outside of the sport that you're hyper focused on. Like for myself as a swimmer, I was actually cross training doing cycling on the weekends. So I would ride for 20, maybe like 30K, something that would take me like an hour, 2, 3 hours to do at that time. It was more recreational, but it was that mental release. And I even know, talking to like cyclists right now, for those that can do it, a lot of them are getting into running at the moment, trying different activities, or even with the swimmers at the High Performance Center. Back in like 2016 and 2017, a lot of the swimmers would do rock climbing, would do different sports just to try something different, because, and you probably agree with me here, it's always good to try something outside of our norm, because it can be self-care. It can be an activity that we can love. Is there anything like outside of like the media work, is there anything that you love to do?
Oh, I love all sorts of things. Like, staying in the sports world, I love consuming just sports as that kind of break, and just getting out and, being with people and just engaging in a different way, like getting out and about, enjoying nature. You talked about riding for enjoying nature. I think there is the benefits in that, in trying something different as well. And staying in somewhat in the world of media, I love writing, not writing for purpose, not writing scripts, just writing for myself. It's a great release, and I feel like the sports world is kind of the same way. But speaking of the sports world, Nathan, if people want to try some cross training in some winter sports, the winter sports season seems to be kicking off. Take it away with the PSN update.
Now, the PSN update.
Wax your skis and boards and buckle in as we prepare for a winter sports weekend on the slopes. In the Netherlands, the Paris snowboard calendar opens with the first of 6 World Cups of the season as the bank slalom takes center stage. From Europe, we go west to Panorama Resort in the BC Rockies for the Canadian Para-Alpine National Championships. Expect to see the fast speeds as the temperature is starting to build up in the race to Milano Cortina. And that's the Parasport preview.
Nathan, I'm curious from your perspective, because like when the timelines for the different cycles, obviously we just finished the summer Paralympic cycle in September, is the start of a new quad, but for the winter sports, Cortina, as you mentioned, it's fast approaching. So how does the training and the mentality for athletes gearing up for the Winter Paralympics, how does this like year and a half out like start to change the direction or the style of training that is taking place?
It's one of those great things with the sport, as like we're looking at it from a lens of we just had Paris and now we're only 14 months away from Milano. So our initial thought would be like, okay, now we got to focus in on this, we got to focus in on that. But for a lot of these athletes, they've been working since Pyeongchang in 2018. They've been working since Beijing in 2022, building, prepping. And one of the most important things is like as you get closer and closer to selection dates, as some of the teams will select their rosters a year out of the games, a lot of other teams are going to select their rosters maybe a couple months before the games even kick off. So it's very sport dependent, but one of the most important things is just controlling what you can't control. And it's so easy to get lost in the numbers, get lost in the results of a national championship, of your first World Cup, but it's just a step-by-step process of really doing what you need to do most and doing what you have to do to set yourself up well for these upcoming competitions. And it's really just an exciting time too, as you're getting so close to living out a dream, whether it's going to be your first games, your fifth games. You just want to be in that environment. And as you get closer and closer to selections, of course, you're doing like the numbers breakdown on who's going to be here, who's going to be doing what, because with parasport, a lot of the time is with a lot of different sports, you have a set roster that you're given by like the International Paralympic Committee or by your sports governing body. And you have to try to put each athlete that gives you the best shot at winning a medal, that gives you the best shot at competing into that jigsaw puzzle. So it's a very, very complicated thing because you're always going up against teammates. You're always competing against your friends and sometimes your roommates. But at the end of the day, you can only control what you can control.
Is there, like, let's say an athlete who is prepping for the Winter Games, or let's say a Alpine. If you have a slow start to this season and you know, you start to drop down the rankings, you start to get off a bit sluggish, is there enough room that you can recover, you can maintain the pace to make that team, to make that final selection and represent your country? Or is this kind of that critical time where it's like, if you kind of lose some ground, it may not be possible to recover?
Yeah, there's definitely two sides to it, where one is if you really start to fall, that can be difficult for an athlete, but it's always trying to find ways that you can rebound. It's trying to find what's working for you and your strength. So it's often at times it can be challenging, especially if you're a cusp athlete trying to make a games team. You can easily start to run through your head being like, oh no, I'm not performing great. What's going to happen here? What's going to happen, say, at the World Championships in March? Because these seasons are so short. The off seasons are so long. Usually most of these sports run from November to March. So you are quickly starting and then you are quickly finishing. So on that one side, it's so easy to get lost in the quickness of the season. But on the other side, that second side too, is these are high level athletes. They understand that you're going to have the bad days, but you're also going to have the good days. It's that 33, 33, and 33 mindset you have to take into it, where you got good, bad, and then just average. And it's just doing the fundamentals. It's doing what works for you and just building. With like some teams, you'll start to see like provisional rosters come out, or what the expected rosters are going to be. And sometimes you may see yourself outside that list, but just then you just have to keep working, keep developing, and just have fun in the process to even be. We always forget, and we always look at it in like numbers of, I have to be on this team, I have to be doing this, I have to be doing that. But just to be in a consideration of going to the games is a privilege in the first place, and just is an incredible opportunity. So it's just really taking that in and trying to soak in this experience as the games are 14 months away.
Absolutely. Keep working, but have fun too. That is the mantra that we're going to leave you at home with on the show. For Nathan, I'm Alex. Catch you next time on PSN.
Thanks for tuning in to Parasport Nation. Like and subscribe to the channel to follow us now.